we'll kick it off. We do try to start on time. So thank you everyone for joining to today's January 2026, our first one of 2026 Lakeside Chat. For those that don't know me, because I think we get a lot of new people, I'm Kristin Nordling, founder and CEO of Lakeside, and I'm genuinely excited that you're all here. Today's topic is one that I'm personally passionate about because I'm a firm believer when people get to play to their strengths, you see them at their best. So let me just share my screen here and we'll get going. So for those that are new here, we do have some rules of the road and rules of engagement. This is a public session that is recorded, and the recording will be posted to Lakeside's website. I want to make sure that everybody knows that. And then access to the recording deck and links reference will be provided in a follow-up through Erin, so please watch for that. Please use all the Teams features. Use chat, to engage and share your voice throughout. And we always encourage positive discussion and genuine curiosity. And many times there is no right answer, and that's okay. And the goal is information sharing and conversation sharing. So this is a safe place, and we love when people engage. It just makes the session much more rich. So for those of you that, again, are new to Lakeside, I want to make sure we set the stage and help people see who we are. Lakeside was founded in October of 2021 by me. We've grown very fast. We have an amazing team of consultants and recruiters. We are a national recruiting and HR consulting organization that supports small to mid-sized businesses and really trying to be that full service partner from a recruiting and an HR consulting perspective. So we offer contingent recruiting, all types of roles, all levels, as well as consulting. We do that by fractional, project, and interim. And we have our mission and vision here. And, when I mentioned the genuine curiosity, we do really pride ourselves in living our values every day. So we are genuine, curious, scrappy value adders. And I'm very excited too that we launched Radiate People. And this is last in Q4, we launched Radiate People. It is an organization that supports solopreneurs and independent consultants through three different means. It is through peer groups that are facilitated by experienced and paid facilitators. We're having our first event that I'll talk about at the end of the session, as well as we are building a community. So we have 2 circles that are live with almost 20 members, and we are looking forward to starting our next circle here shortly. So we have information sessions that are scheduled. So if you are interested in learning more about that, we would love to have you join one of those info sessions. So enough about Lakeside and Radiate People. Let's get into the meat of the session. So today you are going to meet LaVonna Roth. This, as I said, when we first joined, this topic is near and dear to my heart, especially at a time where there are a lot of people in job transition. There are leaders that are leading through some really tough times. And it is really about how do we play to our strengths? How do we shine? And so LaVonna is going to talk a little bit more about that. But when we truly understand our own strengths, we can understand the strengths of the people we lead. And we see performance improves, confidence grows, and work becomes more sustainable. There's a lot of research around this, and honestly, I don't even need the studies to believe it. I see it in action really every day. When someone is operating in their natural strengths, they're more engaged, more productive, more resilient, and they show up different. And it's a different kind of ownership. So with a new year and a lot of people in transition and people wanting to really truly shine, I'm excited to introduce everyone to LaVonna. And this is going to be a very engaging session. You'll see us taking our slides off and just engaging. So we really do want you to comment and chat, really talk through things. If you have questions, feel free to jump in. I had the awesome opportunity. I'm part of Entrepreneurs Organization of Minnesota. And as part of EO, I had the opportunity to attend the Women's Summit in Montreal in June. And that's where I met LaVonna. And I'm not exaggerating when I say we had an instant connection. The kind where when you meet, when we met immediately, we were talking about deep things, and it was very authentic, very grounded, and I could just really tell that she wants to make an impact. And so as we started to get to know each other more, I was like, I need to bring you to Lakeside Chat. So I'm excited that she's here. She has built incredible work around helping people ignite their shine. And I love that because it's not about becoming someone new. It's about reconnecting to what's already in you and learning how to lead, work, and live from that place. So with that, LaVonna, we're so grateful you're here. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself, and then let's dive in.
All right. Well, good morning. And I just have to reiterate, when you make that connection with somebody and it just and when she says we had deep conversation, as in I was in tears with her. So
nobody would be surprised at that knows me, because I cried a lot from not a sad place, more of it just is meaningful.
Yes, it's the support, it's the care that you have, the way that you listen. I just have to say this for a moment because I think it's so important for us to hear this also, because I remember walking away later and just thinking how much Kristin kept making eye contact with me. She kept nodding. She didn't interrupt me. She just let me get some things out. But there was so much support there. And I think, when we talk about how having people help us to find our shine, and when we don't necessarily always feel shiny,
Yeah.
we definitely have those moments. Kristin, you were there, so thank you. Thank you. So I'm a former teacher of 10 years. I taught 2nd through 8th grade. I thought I'd always stay in that. But I became a single mom at one point, decided to go back and get my second master's in educational leadership. And from that point, I had an opportunity to step out and to do different things. So that included sales, which I thought I would never, ever in a million years enjoy. And I actually did. I just had to shift my mindset and perspective of how I viewed sales. And then I also became regional manager of the Southeast and was responsible for business development. And that happened within 8 months of leaving, taking sales, and going into business development. And it was a fast road that I did not anticipate. But I've worked for multiple companies. One I was laid off from, they don't exist anymore. To the next one was highly toxic. I was screamed at, I was cussed out. And I found out I was the 8th person in 10 months in that position. And so, in the moment, I was not grateful for them. But I will say, after putting up with it for 4 months, I finally said enough is enough. And I gave my 2-week notice. I jumped. And that's when I started my own company. And that was back in 2008. So it's gone through all kinds of reiterations. But the joy that I have now is
economic challenges, too. I mean, you think about the ups and downs, 2008.
2008.
The recession, and then we get COVID, and that's and to see where you've taken this it's quite incredible. And I think a lot of people can probably relate to your story too, of that toxic leadership and being able to hopefully figure out how you can take control of that and take control of what you can control.
Yes, you're exactly right. Yeah. So I'm thankful though, because I don't know that I would have jumped, at least not at that time. It may have taken me a lot longer to get the confidence and courage to do it, so yeah.
Awesome. Let me go back to our screen here. So let's jump right in, LaVonna. Let's, I love this. People can be your problem or they can be your solution. So tell me a little bit more about that and what you meant by that. And then, like I said, we'll just jump right in.
Okay. Yeah, this is through experience. That I've realized that a lot of times I would have some challenges, whether I was in another location, business, working, or when I started my own company and started bringing people on. And at first I got really, really frustrated with, how come this wasn't done and why isn't this done this way? And realizing that I had to put up the mirrors for myself, but it's true. What I realize is that people can be the problem, or we can shift our lens. And this is exactly what happened to me also in my own relationships, realizing that if I'm looking for the negative with them, I'm also going to find that. If I look for the positives of things and what they bring to the table, then that's where it also can thrive. And that's where I really realize how much shine and aligning what we do is important for shine. like important for that success, important for that connection, important for to actually realize that, wait a minute, they cannot be our solution, most likely are a solution, unless there's like, coming to work late, definitely missing deadlines, things like that, a different work ethic. But if it's just maybe they're not necessarily in the right spot with duties and responsibilities.
Yeah, there's
So
been so many times, and I'm sure others have experienced this too, where you've maybe been in a role or you've been in a situation where you're not playing to your strengths and you're not feeling energized, and you feel listening to your body as well of feeling drained, feeling uninterested in just being able to go through the day-to-day steps. But when you start seeing that in your people too, that's something that I think can be really important to recognize and having those transparent conversations.
yeah, I agree. I agree. And so today, I guess we're going to be talking about, looking at those we work with or maybe have hired. But it's also, I really want this to be about you today too. And I know, Kristin, we both talked about that, like making sure you understand how you shine. And the acronym, when we get through that, is going to help you take a lens through that to be able to say, okay, what about where I'm sitting right now in my personal life and my professional life? Does it align with helping me to actually what we call live in the shine spot? So, I would love to dive into some challenges. And so I'm gonna take you through this little activity. By the way, if you did not warm up your fingers to type this morning, go ahead and,
Need
do
to.
do
And
that.
in Minnesota, you do need to, because if you don't have your space heater on, move around, move your hands.
Yes, exactly. Well, my fireplace just kicked on and it's an electric one, and it's the
Oh,
kind that when it starts getting to a certain degree. So yeah, it just kicked back on. And I was like, oh yeah, we're dropping.
yeah.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do several different activities throughout this, and I really want you to take a moment to do this and really reflect on it for you. But then you can also, when you think about it from, like I said, personal and professional lens. So I want you to think about a challenging time that you have had in the past 2 years. And when I say this, it could be something really big. This is up to you. It could be something really small, totally up to you. You get to choose. But what is that challenging time? And I'm going to be quiet for about 10 seconds because I'm going to take you through two more steps before we start talking about what you unveil. Okay, so I'll be quiet for about 10 seconds. I just want you to think of what is that challenging moment. Okay, so we're going to do two things with that. So the first thing I'm going to have you do is I want you to think of what is a lesson, benefit, or takeaway that came from that challenge. A lesson, benefit, or takeaway. Now I'm going to pause here for a moment. In psychology, there is such a thing as toxic positivity. Toxic positivity is when we say something just happened or we have something big and we're thinking it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be great. We got this. Yeah, we got this. Yeah, it's going to be fine. It's going to be good. It's going to be good, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good, right? Yeah. Right. That's toxic positivity because what we're doing is we're not dealing with the emotions that us as humans have. And so if we just keep pushing it down and pushing it down and pushing down, you all know what happens, right? It starts doing this at some point, and it usually comes out in an unhealthy way. So I do want you to think not through the lens of toxic positivity, but what might be a lesson, benefit, or takeaway that came from that challenge. And I'm going to be quiet for about another 10 seconds, and then we'll do the last level of that activity. All right, we're going to go one more step. And this step is going to bring this down to one word, a superpower or strength that came from that. So you're thinking of a challenging moment, lesson, benefit, takeaway, but narrow that down to one superpower or strength that you gained. So for example, it might be self-love. It might be empathy, grit, trust, compassion. There are so many words in the chat, though. I would love this is why you warmed up your fingers. So warm them back up if you missed that. But get in the chat, and I want to see what word, superpower, or strength came to your mind that you thought of from that. Kristin, what did you think of? If you don't mind
Resilience.
sharing.
Yeah, resilience.
Mm,
For me, I am that person that says it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. We'll get it figured out. And this one was one that, for me, it wasn't going to be fine if I didn't deal with it. And, I needed to be able to work through that. And it truly was, helped me realize that it is about resilience. And I'm a pretty resilient person and can be pretty positive, but when you get hit and knocked low and your confidence is shaken, being able to work through that and figuring out that I can get through these things. It's, it's not that fake. It's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine.
Yes. Yes. I think it's so important that we do acknowledge that emotion. Like I remember one time during COVID that I was sitting on the floor and I was sobbing and I was like, LaVonna, get up, stop doing this, knock it off. You're going to move forward. And I did. And then a little bit later, I found myself doing it again. And it wasn't until I remember specifically in the bathroom and I sat down and I was like, okay, just let it out. Let it all out. And I did, and I did. And then finally I was like, are you done? I was like, nope. Just cried some more. And then finally I said, okay, now are you done? And I was like, I think I'm good right now. And said, okay, so what is your next steps? What can you control in this moment? But it was that I was just kept trying to override and it doesn't work. So Liz, I see awareness. Erin, you said the same. Kristin, is it Tamara or Tamara? You feel free to put that in the chat if I hate mispronouncing names, but I see you both have resilience.
Tamara. It's Tamara.
Tamara, thank you. I'm glad you know, Tamara. Okay, so we have self-awareness with Marty, and I see trust and more awareness, truth. Jill, you say educated. We've got perseverance. Like, look at all these amazing words. Like grit is in here. Balancing boundaries, Marie says, and trust. More resilience from Heidi and Marlene. Like, yes, like, look at this. So I want to remind you that this is an example of, it came from a challenging moment, but we do get superpower strengths that come from that. And so when we can keep that in mind, it's really, really helpful. So let's look at Ignite Your S.H.I.N.E. So S.H.I.N.E is an acronym, and I want to take you through the components of the acronym. By the way, feel free to engage in the chat. I just ask that you stay on topic. So if you want to, or you can pause and do the work and reflection and then jump in and do that as we say, that's totally fine too. But our goal is to help create a human-focused culture when it comes to organizations. But you and we all know that we can say we're going to leave work at work and we're going to leave home at home, and that is not true, right? We're human beings, so we bring it all with us. So with the letter S.H.I.N.E, or the acronym of S.H.I.N.E, we're going to dig into the letter S, okay? And S is self. And self, what we're doing is we're looking at what are your strengths, gifts, skills, and talents. Now, my degree was teaching the deaf, so I do a little bit of sign. So I am going to teach some sign for you. And you can stay on the acronym,
Okay.
Kristin, thank you.
Stay on the acronym?
Yeah, you can stay on the acronym. Thank you, because I'm going to go through that first. Thank you. So S is self. And so a little bit of, when we think about like from a sign language, I do this a little bit. Oh, go back. Logo. Sorry, I'm not being very clear.
Yep.
There we go. Yeah, stay on that one slide, the logo.
Okay.
So back one more. So we talk about S for self. You're going to put your thumb out like you're hitchhiking. All right. And you're going to put your thumb against your chest like this. And this is going to be self. Okay. So I think of like, this is the person, and put it against the chest. So it's not flat like this. It is like this. So when we talk about self, right, we're talking about what are you good at? Again, I mentioned briefly, what are your strengths, gifts, skills, and talents? And here's the thing is that like, Kristin, I don't know if you've experienced this too, but we have been taught so much to look at what we need to improve, what we need to do better. And it started way back in school. I mean, I'm a former teacher, I can say this, right? It started way back in school as students because we had to get 100% or you had to hit an A. And so instead, what we do is we flip the model. And when you look at what Gallup research says when it comes to strengths, your strengths will remain your strengths, and your weaknesses, they're never going to get to that level, right? So they'll never get to the level of the strengths. But we spend so much of our time in our life over here instead of here. Kristin, would you agree?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Yes. I'm still working on it, right? Remember, we're all human.
Yes.
Right? This is just the realization. So we look at strengths beyond what Gallup even looks at. Like we look at humor and we look at what if you're a what if, or like, what if we try this? What if we do that? So we kind of look at that too. When we get to H and S.H.I.N.E, it is heart, right? It is about passion. It is what lights you up. It's what gives you the energy, what drains you. And so I'm going to modify this sign and sign language. So this is not true sign language, what I'm about to show you. But in sign language, middle fingers often represent emotion. Okay, so if you missed that, because I know it's still a little early, middle fingers represent emotion. Okay, and if not, when you drive later, you'll get it. Okay, so what we're going to do though is, because we're talking about heart, we're talking about passion, we're talking about emotion, you're going to take your middle fingers and you're going to trace the shape of a heart, right? Trace the shape of a heart. Yes. And again, we're talking about passion. I love that you knew that, Erin. All right, so again, this is emotion, but here's the key. We have to have the two together. So when I mean that, I mean by the S and the H need to come together. That's the shine spot. Okay, so I'll give you an example. let's say, for example, I'm really good at organization.
Mm-hmm.
And you all say, you know what, LaVonna, you should go into people's homes and you should organize their closet for a living. I'm like, I don't really have the heart for it. I don't have the passion. Right. So yeah, I could do it, but we know burnout, boredom, wanting to retention goes down, like us, our fulfillment drops. All right. So we're missing one. We're not in the shine spot.
Right.
Now let's flip it. Okay. So let's say, for example, that I have a passion and I do. I love to sing. I love to sing. Okay. It is not a strength. All right. So example I can give you is I know it's not good. My husband will start singing around the house and
Why
I don't
didn't you
even
do karaoke out in Montreal?
I know, thank goodness. I would have only jumped in if there were a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And maybe not even jumped in. Yeah. So, but my husband will start singing around the house, and I don't even know I do this. I just jump in and I start singing. And one day he looked at me and he goes, LaVonna, it is not a duet. And I was like, okay, I get it, right? I get it. I'm not good at it. So I understand I am missing the strength. So if I have a
My
dream of
kids
singing,
remind me and my husband that I'm tone deaf. So, but I do love singing.
yes. Well, how many of
By
you would,
myself.
I want to know in the chat, are you a good singer or are you tone deaf? Yes. Or just, I can carry a tune, but it's not lovely. So, like a dream of singing on the stage in Vegas with Mariah Carey, she's not going to have me, right? Like I'm not good. So we'll skip that step and find something else. So like when we think about, you, how do you shine? And we want you in that shine spot. Now, the reality of it, I will say, Kristin, you and I both own our own businesses, and the rest of you may own your business, you may work for somebody else, but you know what it's like when you sit in it's not the shine spot, right? Like you can just tell you're getting drained. But keep in mind, we follow the 80-20 rule that everybody loves to throw out, but it does apply. Like there's 80% we try in the company to live in that shine spot, but in all reality, there's 20% we're not going to love it. And so, yes, you can see here 80% of workers don't feel that they can be their self at work, according to Gallup. 70% of workers are not engaged at work. I mean, these are very, very high numbers. And 87% or more of US workers are not able to reach their full potential. So this is where that shine spot comes in, right? Because they don't have a passion for what they do. And so it really is that S and the H. And then I'm going to quickly take you through the rest of the acronym of SHINE.
Okay.
So the letter I is inspire, because the life will throw curveballs, right? So when life throws curveballs, it's what do? Like we tend to falter, we tend to trip. Instead, how do we stay inspired? So in sign language, by the way, if you put your fingertips like this, so touch all your fingertips together and drop them down where your belly is, where they just naturally fall, and you're going to bring your hands up and towards you and open. All right, so this is inspire. So I think of like you're throwing confetti on you, right? Whatever you want to visualize there. So this is inspire. So you have S and H, but if you're not living in the shine spot, or even if you are, life is still going to throw the curveballs, right?
Yeah.
And then N is navigate, meaning what are you going to do with everything I've been talking about? It's you putting it into action. It's your direction. It's your progress, right? So when we talk about navigate, I'm also modifying this sign. It would be to search is navigate in sign language, and I mean something different for shine. So if you put your hands parallel like a path, and you go like this, and I really hope you all are doing this, by the way, because the brain.
If they're not, I am with you.
That's
so
right.
Obviously.
Exactly. And sometimes, Kristin, I love it because it is way over here, isn't it? It's like, get me back on the path. But this is where I think we set ourselves up to fail and we lose some of our shine, is because we expect, like, if you're here and you have a goal here, we expect to go like this. And I don't know about you all, but it rarely happens for me.
Right.
So my expectation is off because that's not reality. Whereas maybe it's like this, right, toward the goal. And I want to remind you that when you gained your lesson, benefit, takeaway, superpower, strength, that was not when you were on the path. That was likely when you were off the path at a challenging
100%.
time.
Yeah, 100%.
So I love like having these opportunities to do this, I am curious in the chat. I know Kristin in the beginning, if you were here, she talked about the word of the year. So in the chat, I'm curious to know how many of you actually created a New Year's resolution? Yes or no? A New Year's resolution? Because I don't know about you, Kristin, but I stopped a long time ago because what I realized was January 1, I was going to be, working out and all buff and eating the greens. And by January 6th, I was like, it's been a year, and I would dive into the pasta, the pizza, etc.
Well, I got a wedding coming up for my son, so it's the wedge shred season. So yeah, so I have to stay with this New Year's resolution because I have until September 25th. But I love how many people are saying no. And I also love, Chrissy said having a vision board. I've never done that. And I think this year there's an event coming up that is doing it with Team Women. And I am going to do that. I've never done it. And I'm very excited to dive into that because I believe in the power of manifesting. I believe in all of that. So,
Yep.
But Barb, I like yours. Yes, to cut myself some slack. I do. I think, Aaron, you have many of them. I think it's, it is interesting to see how many people don't do it. You obviously see it at the health club, at the beginning of the year. But it is one of those that
True.
again, wedge shred. I'm 20 days in and, I'm trying, but it's hard. So, there was one comment, Marlene DeLong said, earlier on, you have to have lots of self-control when you work remotely from home to balance home and work. And I think that is a really interesting comment as it relates to S.H.I.N.E. So if we don't talk about it now, I would love to, pick your brain on that as we go.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Marlene, I actually tie this in a little bit with what was shared by Chrissy about the vision board. I recently heard a tweak that I actually liked even better. It was by a psychologist. So if you can't tell, I love psychology. I started out in that as a profession and just started taking the classes, but with all the reading you had to do, I got a 1.2 GPA and was put on probation to be kicked out of college. So I was like, okay, maybe I should go something else right now. But what I love is the tweak is the vision boards are fantastic, but there are some psychologists out there who really is putting out doing a becoming board. And what I loved that I would actually layer in both is that she looked at, okay, this is the vision, the goals of what you want, but how are you actually going to achieve that? And what she said is when it comes to us and our habits, it's really the daily habits to get to that. So I did put together this year a becoming board. It kind of looks like a vision board, but it's twists. There's twists with things that I want to make sure that I'm doing daily. Although I will tell you, I'm the kind of person that if I set a goal and I say it's going to be daily and I miss a day, then I already start getting very hard on myself. So I now give myself this, like the permission, so to speak, to say, if you miss a day, it's okay. The next day you're going to get back on track. Or if you do it later in the day, or you miss 2 days, that's okay. The important thing is to get back to it because that's still more than I was doing. So I thought I'd throw that out there because, the becoming board, what are your daily habits? And so going back to what was said from Arlene about, balancing home and work, I'll just put a little twist on that maybe part of that is where are you putting on your board or in your head or your goals that you're going to establish these boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good reminder.
Yeah. And then I'll finish up E. E is exceptional because you are becoming the exceptional person, exceptional leader, exceptional family member, you name it, fill in the blank, the exceptional person you were meant to be. And so in S.H.I.N.E, you are dominant hand, you're gonna put your non-dominant hand up. Okay. So if you are right-handed, you're gonna put your left hand up. If you are left-handed, put your right hand up. Okay. So your non-dominant hand's up. This is the number one or person in sign language. Just put your arm naturally where it goes. And you're gonna take your dominant hand and grab, I think of this as a person surrounded by a group of people because they're exceptional. We all are, right? But exceptional, you're gonna just take it and pull it up and across.
Oh, yes. I love that.
Yes, and that's exceptional in sign language. So those are the components that we use to tap in and out of personally and professionally.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, let's talk about a little bit more about those strengths. I know you had shared, we all kind of went through and talked about our strengths. Oops, there we go. You gave a lot of examples here. You give a lot of examples of strengths. Anything you want to add in here as we're talking through and taking these next steps?
I would love for you all to identify in the chat what are 3 to 5 of these that you recognize for you. And the reason I love doing this, Kristin, is because when I do this when I'm keynoting or even in a workshop or breakout, the number of people who I will give a certain amount of time and then I'll say, how many, raise your hand if you have 3, or raise your hand if you have 5. And the number of people who do not have it identified in that amount of time, it tells me because again, we are trained, we are taught to not recognize these things as much and as fast. We're taught that's braggadocious or, it's arrogant. And I want to break those walls down because how do we know the value of what we're contributing if we don't understand the strengths that we bring. And the twist that I'll give to this is I was talking to a college student and he's like, he is so confused, as you should be. You're 19, 20 years old. Like, how many of you still are like, I don't even know what I'm doing, right? Like, I'm still learning, I'm still growing. Well, I had him look at the S and the H. So he identified his strengths and he looked at me like had a hard time with it. And he said, I'm not used to thinking about myself this way. And I was like, exactly. It is time to think about yourself that way. So again, it's not to be arrogant, but to be confident in what you bring. And I said, now imagine that you walk into a job interview and they say, so what are the things you're good, what are some of the strengths that you have, what are some of the weaknesses that you bring? You know how to position it with these are what I'm good at doing. This is the value that I would bring to your company. This is how I would bring it. I'm also very excited and passionate about these things, so I can contribute in this way. And so if he already knows the description of the job and what he's going for, he can now align it in such a different way than saying, well, my top three strengths are, it just becomes this whole robotic, and it's the same thing everybody says.
Right.
So
There's
look at
something,
these, Kristin.
I
Look at
know, there's
these.
something, so powerful looking at this list of individual strengths. I mean, it's just because it's forcing all of us to take a minute and look at this list and put down three to five. And I think it's just, to me, and I loved this list because I think it hit a lot of areas. But seeing some of Ray, deliberative, arranger, learner, organizer, caretaker, persuasive leader. I mean, all of these are just, I love these. Tiffany, curious, supporter, patient, and some of the people that I know out here, I see, I see their strengths too. And to have them recognize those as well is just, it's really fun. I mean, there's a few people that I've known for a long time in here for many years. Talk about
Awesome.
like probably closer to 30 years. Seeing what they put, Jill, problem solver, detail oriented, reliable, organizer, 100%. So it's fun to see when someone recognizes that in themselves as well.
Yes. Yes, it warms my heart, and it's different when you're sitting, in a team or a meeting or even with friends. Like, this applies to relationships, and to be able to have the conversation of, I tried something new yesterday and I didn't even know I was good at this, or I tried something new and it did not go well at all, but here's what I learned from it,
Exactly. Exactly. So it's, did anybody have, I'd be curious. I mean, it doesn't look like it, but did anybody have a hard time with coming up with those strengths? And if they do, what are some things that people can do to help with that?
Yes. So my favorite, because if we are more shy or it's ingrained in us, I was raised in a way that it is about being humble.
Oh,
And
yes.
so I had a very hard time doing this at first. And then I realized this isn't about not being humble. What it is just being able to identify to support you and your team with, like, this is what I am good at doing. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying that I'm the best. What I am saying is that I am good at this. If you're having a hard time with that, one, I would sit on it for some time and just start paying attention. Get your brain to think in this way, because here's the cool thing. If you start to think about it for you, it often transfers to others. Or
Yeah.
start there. Start with looking at other strengths and then saying, okay, I'm actually pretty similar, or I bring this to the table. But my ultimate favorite way to flip this for you is to take it outside of you. So
Yeah.
what would a colleague say? What would a best friend say? What would a family member say? What would a sibling say? Or a child? And even ask them, because think about sitting at the dinner table. Hopefully we still do that at times,
Yeah.
but sitting at the dinner table and saying, all right, what did you learn about yourself today that was a strength of yours or not a strength of yours? And that just starts to highlight those moments.
Agreed. And I see a couple of people saying strengths finders or Gallup strengths.
Mm,
I mean, it did change my world too. I remember the first time I went through that, I was like, it was such an aha moment because, it put into a word in, there was a word that described, when I knew I was playing to my strengths. And Ray, I'm 100% with you. I no longer invest much energy on the weaknesses. And that was a game changer. I think when that book came out and all of that work around that came out, it was, to me, it was an absolute game changer. We do
yeah.
it at our company. When a new hire starts, one of the first things we do is go through strengths finders. And then Becky on our team had a wonderful idea of mixing up our team so that we have discussions
Mm,
with people that we don't work with on a regular basis. And we talk about our
mhm,
strengths. And when we are playing to our strengths, what does that look like? And
yeah.
that was a great exercise.
Yes. And I'll encourage you to take it even, a step further. Like, learn when we look at Strengths Finder, they're bigger, broader categories. Like you're a learner, right? You're an achiever. So, but I'm asking you to go even deeper that. That's where we step apart with that, like just another lens to come through with. But what about learner? Because it doesn't mean you like to learn everything.
Yep.
Right. So we want you to go deeper. Like, what do you like to learn? What do you not learn? And that will also tap into H for heart, for passion. So that's just one example.
Awesome. So let's jump into the strengths and passions. We're talking about the left side strengths, and now we're going to dive into passions. And how can we intro that and help people understand partnering those two things up, and how that gets us to our shine spot.
Yes. Yeah, so I love S.H.I.N.E is so simple, yet it's very complex. And this is going to be an example of that. All right. So on the left side, if you were to do this on paper, right? So this is essentially a Venn diagram. I've always had trouble with the circle overlap and is enough space, but now I left not enough space. So I like the diamond here.
Yep.
And if you are a math person, I know this is a rhombus, but rhombuses don't shine, diamonds do. So roll with me on this. Okay. All right. So on the left side, though, you're going to put strengths. So sit with that. Like I said, spend some time and just have that sheet of paper near you on your desk, in the bathroom, wherever you want to take it while you're getting ready, just little things that pop up or somebody says something to you, have it in your phone. It doesn't matter. But the goal is just put all of your strengths on the left side. So some of you can feel free to start doing this if you have paper near you or a way to write this down. And you're just going to fill as much, just make it crazy over there and don't stop. There's no limit on this, right? What are the strengths? And again, it is not about perfection. It is not about being the best. You're saying that I am actually good at this. Okay. And then when we get over to the right side, H is heart. By the way, I love the word passions. That's really what I wanted, but spine or ignite your spine did not work right. So that's why it is P for passions, but we use the H for heart instead. It's about that heart, right? So we need this to work, right? All right. So passions of what your heart is. What do you love to do? What is an interest to you? What gives you the energy? List those things on the left. And yes, be aware of what drains you too, because that's just as important, right? But we focus on that a lot, and that's the negative approach. And if you think you probably have heard before, like where your focus goes, energy flows. I think it comes from Buddhism, maybe, but it's true. It's science, right? So on that right side, you're going to list passions, things that you notice that you love. But the hard part is that centerpiece, right? Because this is where you're going to look for where do the two come together, because that is your shine spot. When are you happiest? When are you most fulfilled? And the reason I say it's a little bit harder is because a couple tips I can give you is if it shows up in the S and or it shows up in the H, it can still go in the middle, right? Because it might be both. So you could put that. But I also want you to look for themes, right? What are some things that you notice that keep popping up? So let's say, for example, my daughter, she loves supercars, right? So if you know Bugattis, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, McLarens, words I did not know before her. But if you know that, I noticed that she loved them. And one day I said to her, I said, Maddie, what do you love about supercars? And I thought she was going to say the sound. No, she said the way they're designed. She loves the look of them. Well, I started thinking back, right? So a passion of hers is supercars. She can start to break that down with design. And so I thought, I wonder if design goes in the center as a shine spot for her. It's something she's good at seeing and understanding and knowing, but also really likes it. Well, I looked back and I thought she at one point thought about being an architect. She thought about being an interior designer, and now she's a realtor. She is looking at homes and layouts. Everything is around design. So what we would put in hers is design. So happiness and fulfillment is not necessarily a specific career or industry. It is living in this space. And so I'm just going to encourage you, like it's a little bit of a tougher spot, but take a week to do this or 2 weeks.
And I think it's so important because, especially, I know just based on some of the names, we have a lot of Gen Xers here. And a lot of us, there are a lot of people that followed the path that they thought they should be taking for years. And, oh, I should be doing this. My dad was an accountant. I should be an accountant. Or even to the extreme of my dad was a doctor, my mom was a doctor, and now I'm taking that path. But they're not passionate. This is not where, yes, their strengths are there and they can do it, but where's the heart? And it has been so interesting since COVID to see how many Gen Xers are saying, I don't want to be I don't want to be doing this anymore. No, I should have, I thought I should be doing this. And now they're making that shift. And that's what I'm so impressed with this next generation that's coming in, the Gen Zers that are coming in, and they're bucking the system. There's like, no, I'm not passionate about this. I don't have the heart in this. But yet they aren't sure what that is. And so this exercise can be good for all generations my point is it's so important to take a step back. If you're just not feeling the energy, or you're just not feeling, fulfilled every day with what you're doing. I think it's important to just take that moment. So
Yeah.
no,
Yeah, I
I
think
love
so
that
too.
idea, daughter.
Yeah, it was enlightening, and and I'll share this too with having conversations. Like, even with I had a teammate who was not sending things out on time, and
Mm-hmm.
she literally had like 29, 30 days to send it out. And at 11 p.m. at night, the day before it's supposed to go out, I was getting the email to say, "Is this okay to go, ready to go out?" And I'm like, and I was getting really frustrated, and I had to say, "Okay, that means something is off with this." So I went to her and I said, "Talk to me. What is happening?" And I said, "You have a lot of time to do this, but it's coming down to the last minute." And she said, "I hate writing them."
Yeah.
And I went, "You hate writing them?" And she said, "Yes." So we brought it to the team, and another teammate said, "I don't mind writing them." She writes them. It is like it goes out like clockwork now,
Oh, love.
but we didn't, instead of me getting madder and madder and madder, and then, it coming to other things, or just not a good relationship and good environment, we switched it up, and it helps. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would
Well,
love to know some of the passions.
yes, and again, I think there's something powerful about putting something in writing. And when you've gone through this exercise and you've thought about the strengths, and LaVonna asked you about what your passions are, I'd love to hear some of those. I think it's, sometimes people, again, I know people that have, they're designers, or they are so good with decorating their home, but yet they're an accountant sitting behind a computer. And so they're, I think, and it doesn't even have to be the job that you're doing, but if there's ways that you can, fulfill those passions and be able to, get that strength and heart. So I'd be curious in the chat if there's others that are out there that have anything has jumped out. It doesn't necessarily have to be job related. It could be just something that keeps you energized and motivated.
Definitely.
Yeah. LaVonna, what about for you when obviously this was something that you discovered on your own too. I mean, you can see that you can feel that heart that you have and the passion that you have about Shine and talking about it. Was that easy for you to find?
No, it wasn't. And that's why I realized the value of this, and putting Shine together. And it's a lot of different disciplines that are coming together into this, so like StrengthsFinder could be a complement, but doing deeper work with it too, to really diving into the passions, like what makes people thrive and feel good and want to keep doing things. And so, yeah, it was, I mentioned that in college I had a 1.2 GPA, and I was actually put on probation, like I said, to be kicked out. And I thought, okay, fine, you're going to kick me out. Well, one of the things I've noticed, I've always wanted to learn sign language. And I had worked at a tanning salon where a deaf couple came in. We were writing everything out. I worked at McDonald's, and we had to pull out the visual menu for the gentleman who came in who was deaf, and he would point, but he still had to go small, medium, large for like what size of fry. And I just remember thinking, if I could just communicate, like this isn't right. Like why
Yeah.
don't we learn this? And so I did. I pulled the university catalog and could take sign language, but in order to take sign language, you had to go into the College of Education. And that is when I went in, and I just lit up because I realized there's a passion of supporting people and helping people and making a difference. And my GPA completely flipped, and I
Yeah.
didn't get kicked out, so, but that's one example of, finding passion.
And I was very lucky in my career to have stumbled across a job that really fed my passion as well. In doing it, I started my career in recruiting, and so I've been a connector. I've been a natural connector my entire life, and didn't realize that was something that brought me such joy. And so being able to have a career and then start a company where it's still, my passion has been something that's super rewarding. And so when people can merge those together, I mean, I laugh because my passion outside of work is Bravo TV. And I know it's not, but I
Maybe.
I know, but it is, I love and again, I think it is because I do like to problem solve. I do like to just kind of watch that. But we've got some really, Kristin, this is a good point, topic for another time, but maybe. But what about when passions don't have the financial reward needed to continue? So we need to fall back into careers where we're good at it, but not passionate. I think that's a great question. I don't think it's necessarily for another time. I think we can talk about it right now. So LaVonna, I'd be curious on your thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I would love to know your thoughts too. And others, again, feel free to put some things in the chat. But you know, sometimes there's what we have to do to get to where we want. But the first thing is I would recommend doing a shine spot, because you may realize some other possible rewarding careers that would fulfill you with being in the shine spot. The second thing, though, is if we can't make a shift or a switch, you know, anytime soon or maybe never, you can either live in that space and be miserable or unhappy, whatever level you know, that could be different levels here. Or you can start looking. Remember earlier when I said, when, you know, what you look for in people is what you're going to find. So if we're looking at the job and we're thinking how much I don't enjoy this, what could you instead say, what do I enjoy about this? How could I do more of this? Right? Like, how could I throughout my day embed more of this so that I'm bringing some of that strength, some of that passion? And sometimes it's as simple as having a conversation with somebody. So for example, I am more introverted than I am extroverted. People don't believe that because I am a speaker, but I am more introverted. So it means I need to recharge alone. I love, love, love being around people. But I'm going to go back to what we said in the beginning. And if you weren't here, Kristin and I connected right away. But Kristin also dove right deep into a conversation, which is where I like to be. What drains me, and I don't mind doing it for a bit, right? But what drains me is staying up high level. How are the kids? How's work? What's going on? How's the weather? You know, I want to have like a good connecting relationship. And, you know, proof that Kristin and I are here together is an example of that. So again, finding what are you excited about, passionate about? What are you good at doing? Can you embed more of that or find ways to do more of it?
Right. And I see Becky's comment, and she is amazing cake decorator. If I could just quickly show some, I mean, she's unbelievable, but she does it as she gives back to individuals. It's icing for smiles, or I'm getting it wrong, but it's usually kids that are going through some illness and some challenges. But yeah, it's a really cool thing to see when she is able to do that and see her work. Because I look at the detail and I'm like, there's icing smiles. Thank you, Becky. There is no way that would be my passion or strength. And so thank God for people like Becky that can do that. So
exactly.
Yeah. We got a couple other comments, allowing ourselves to be less binary thinkers, allowing ourselves to be more than just one thing in a given moment, maybe compromising with ourselves a bit more. And Marie, I like that a lot, because just finding those ways. I think about, again, using Becky as an example, is somebody that has that creative outlet and spreading joy, but then also is very good at her job on a day-to-day basis, and playing to her strengths in her role as well. So I think finding ways to be able to lean into that, I think, is important. So we're coming towards the end here. So let's jump into one final chat discussion. What actions are you going to take to make sure that 2026 is more in line with who you are and where you want to be? And this is one that especially as, my almost mid 50s, I say low to mid 50s. I think it's, for me, this question, when you posed it, LaVonna, when we were talking, it was one that I was like, well, how can I do that now? I'm in my mid 50s. How do I? But I think that the vision board, or the becoming board, I loved that. Finding ways to bring that out, I think is what the action I'm going to take. I'd love to hear what some others are going to take too, if there's something that you can do, or things that we can even be accountability partners on with this too.
Yes. I think this is actually a good time to go back to what Marlene was saying about drawing boundaries, especially working from home. One tip that I can give that really works for me, that could be an action that you choose to take, is I calendar things in. And it was my sister who said, calendar your family in. Why don't you calendar them in? Because I was having a very hard time with boundaries.
Mhm.
And I was so offended. And I remember looking at her and thinking, calendar my family in. Okay, so sis, I'm supposed to say family, you're not till 1 o'clock, right?
Mhm.
But sometimes you react and then you're like, okay, wait, hold on, let me think about this. And it actually made sense because we do calendar everything else in. And so what I did was I put everything on my calendar that I have to do. The second thing I put on is when am I going to take care of me? It is my
Mhm.
self-care that it gets put back in. And then the third thing is I would calendar my family. Now
Yeah.
I'm empty nester now, but I would put my daughter in. And what's
Yeah.
awesome is we looked forward to it, right? Like this was our time where we got to spend. And my daughter said to me one time, she goes, Mom, I know you travel a lot. She goes, I need you to release some of the guilt. She goes, I just know you have guilt. And I was like, you have no idea. And she
Mhm.
said, it is not the quantity of time, it's the quality of time.
Yes,
And so
100%.
maybe calendaring some of that, Marlene, might help with that.
That's, it's a great reminder, especially, for me, because I think about it as being an owner and founder. I feel like, okay, I got to be heads down. And I mean, even last night, to give you an example of, where I need to remind myself to give myself those boundaries because I don't, is I was here till 8 o'clock. I got home, ate dinner, and then watched football, with my husband. So I did have a little bit of quality time, but, it's at the same time, I do have that guilt. And so reminding yourself about setting those boundaries and calendaring. So I really like that. So thank you for bringing that back. And they're so great. Finding 3 joy moments every day, Tamara, I love that. Focusing on alignment through consistent habit, finding harmony in my life, figuring out how to monetize my passions. Some great, Becky, saying no without guilt. All of this is just fantastic. So I hope this was inspiring for everyone. LaVonna, do you have any last words? I want to share how you can get in touch with LaVonna. We will also send as a separate attachment the passions and the strengths and passions worksheet as well. So, but any last words, LaVonna?
I want to thank you all for being here because that's part of it is showing up, and even those that watch this later, it is the showing up, but remind yourself of this. Even if you set a reminder in your phone once a week that you're going to revisit, what did I discover that I was good at? And what lit me up this week? What am I not doing that inspires me? Or is it reading poems? Is it going out in nature? What is it that inspires me? And then the end is like, okay, for the next week, what could I do? And you think back to whether it's a becoming board or just what are my next steps, my next habits that I want to put in the next week to do
Yeah,
that, because then I'm literally taking you through S.H.I.N.E right now because
yeah.
you're already exceptional, but you can be more aligned with the exceptional that you want to be, not how. And Kristin, I love when you said that because it's so true. So many people have been told what career to go into,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's complete mismatch. So I'm cheering you on. Find your shine in 2026. Happy to be here to connect with you on LinkedIn, wherever you may be. And then yes, the Shine Leadership Jumpstart Companion gives you one activity per letter, and you can do it by yourself. You can do it with a small group, or you can go actually staff wide with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And one final parting thought as well. Anne, I see yours and you're working your way through the Mel Robbins Best Year Workbook to help you identify some of these things. That's fantastic. I didn't know it was free, so that's a nice little tool as well. I love these tips and tricks. So I wanted to just, oops, sorry, I'm going all over the place. Sorry if that went a little wonky for you, but I mentioned Radiate People and how we launched Radiate People Q4 of 2025. And we have an event that we are very excited to announce on February 27th. And this is for individuals that are independent consultants, solopreneurs, fractional consultants that you could be at any stage. If you're building it right now, or you're curious, we've been using the word solo curious, or you've been doing this for 20 plus years and you just, you want to be around people. Being independent consultant can be very lonely at times. And that's why we started Radiate People. And this will be our first event. We're very excited about, the sponsors that are supporting us in this as well. And we do still have sponsorship packages available, and we will be sharing the link to register, but please mark your calendar for February 27th. It is at the beautiful Cocoa Co-working Station in the Grain Exchange in Minneapolis. And it is an event from 8 to 12. And so we will have a panel and we will have breakout sessions. And this is, should be a very fun event. Erin has been working very hard on getting this going, and I think it will be extremely rewarding as well. And speaking of Erin, she will be back on February 17th to have the future of work discussion, what's changing, what's staying, and what's coming, what comes next. And really, this is backed by popular demand. We've got Kate Bischoff and David Gramer. Kate will be bringing a perspective on risk, compliance, and policy in a time of very rapid change and a little bit of a chaos. David will be bringing his amazing insight into how compensation pay structures and workforce design are evolving alongside shifting business realities. So this should be a good discussion for all. I think it will be one that I think everybody will get a lot out of. So I really appreciate everyone being here today. If you have any questions for any LaVonna or myself, feel free to reach out afterwards. Like I said, Erin will be sending out the follow-up, and we will make sure that you have the takeaways as well. So thank you all for showing up. Really appreciated it. And LaVonna, thank you for sharing your gifts and your heart with us as well. It was great to partner with you on this. I can't believe we talked about it in the summer and now we're here.
I know. Kristin, thank you for all that you're doing, because I want to recognize, I want you all to know this is not like easy, no time consuming work. It is. And Kristin, you and your team have a passion for this and just the value that you bring. So I think this is incredible. And I love that people are taking it, not for granted, but taking actual opportunity of it.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Stay warm.